Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to a new Severance Season 2 discussion, and we have a whopper of a topic to get into. And this is one that has admittedly been out in the ether for a good while, but I really feel like this past episode, Season 2, Episode 5,
Yeah.
really sent off an alarm bell in my brain, basically being like, is Irving secretly a detective?
Yeah, I feel like there's so much smoke on this now that it's got to be true, right?
It just feels like there are a lot of things about him that we intentionally do not know that are being withheld, but whether it is direct evidence related to him, whether it is information about his past, we don't know a ton about it, but we're going to get into what we do know, what he might be up to. There's just too much smoke on this at this point for us to ignore.
Absolutely. But before we jump into this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It is my birthday coming up this week on Friday, and we're almost at 70,000 subscribers. And it would be such a great gift if you guys would hit that subscribe button and help us reach that milestone, as well as getting 2 Severance videos every single week here. It would really mean a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys, and happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. We've got a link in the description below for that. Over there right now, we are in the midst of covering The Pit on Max and also Prime Target on Apple TV Plus. 2 really, really good shows. We have a lot of fun discussing them, just like we have a great time discussing Severance here. So thank you for all of your support.
Okay, let's talk about the phone booth, because I think that's one of the biggest clues here to what is kind of going on with Irv, because we've seen him in this phone booth talking a couple of times now to who? It sounds like it's somebody who might be a superior, somebody that he's reporting into, that he's trying to give a message to about whatever it is that he is doing, messages he's trying to get to his innie. It seems like there's some sort of undercover work that is going on here.
Yeah, the quote in episode 5 that really kind of got what little hair I have stand on end is him saying, they fired me. I think they knew what my innie was up to.
Right.
So that means that the they is obviously Lumon, but it also sort of implies.
I like how you said Lumon and pointed at me.
Who are you?
Who are you?
No, I really think that therefore, okay, the person he's talking to can't then be somebody at Lumon because, is he going to include them in the they? It just doesn't really work. So it just feels like to me, okay, this is some sort of outside organization, but it's also just the idea of where he is when he's making this call. Like he's doing it from a phone booth. And we all know from watching 2 million movies over the course of our lives, like you're only going to a phone booth, which costs money if you are, you don't have a cell phone for whatever reason. That's more relevant back when not everybody had a cell phone, but 2, you want to do something really, really discreetly and really on the down low so that nobody
tracks you.
Yeah, nobody tracks you. He's doing all this pretty much in the middle of the night. I know they're in kind of a wintry area, so that probably means the sun is setting a little bit sooner, but he's not spending his weekend seemingly going and do it. We've never seen him at the phone booth when it's sunny outside and people can end up seeing him.
Yeah, he is going in the night. He is going to a phone booth where no one can track him. No one can trace him. We know that obviously Bert is following him around, but that's for a completely different reason. And let's bring in the Bert of it all as well. So we saw that Bert is there watching him. Irving goes over and is like, why are you following me? Like, what is going on? Well, when a guy shows up at my door and is screaming my name, I tend to want to know what's going on. And also it's caused some problems for me and my husband. Feels is very upset that you are at the door screaming my name. And apparently my innie got let go because I was having some affair with somebody else there. Like, we want you to come over so that we can have a dinner and maybe we can talk it out. And Irving is just like, sounds good. And it's like, okay, well, is that because you just want to get information out of him? We've seen Irving in his apartment when his innie was out in his outie world, looking inside that chest. And in that chest was like names of people at Lumon, the elevator paintings everywhere, like maps. he was really researching everything he possibly could
Yeah.
about Lumen. So having the opportunity to go home with Bert and see what he knows, absolutely, he would take that opportunity if he is a detective.
Yeah, detectives love compiling information. Like it's
Right.
obviously a big part of their job. And beyond all that, so is adaptability. And so is this idea that you believe that in your undercover role, you have this ability to influence others. I mean, even to the point where Irving's a little bit delusional, thinking that his any can like go in there and influence people, or
Yeah.
thinking that he thinks he can influence his any, that he can control his any from the outside world. Like we're seeing him work so hard in order to do that, that he obviously thinks it's successful to a certain extent. He obviously thinks that whatever he has passed along has led to his any being in this position. Like it's something that really only a person with a very exact belief system thinks that they're going to be able to do. And that to me suggests somebody who has been undercover a lot, is used to being undercover, and is also used to going with the punches here. Like he was able to detect that Bert was watching him. Not immediately, obviously. We saw at least one instance where Bert was watching him that Irv didn't know, but he was able to find out pretty soon. And
Hmm.
he really rolled with the punches pretty great. Like if I knew somebody was watching me, I would be running out of the. I would not be handling it like Irv did at all.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Irv's outing had information on Bert already. So how much did he already know about Bert to begin with? You know, he may not have known about the relationship. He might have known about the relationship.
Yeah, he seems to just have a lot of information, a lot of know-how. He seems like his primary directive is to constantly get more information, even to the
Yeah.
detriment of his own health, where he's keeping himself
Yep.
up constantly to try to pass messages around. And just like another like weird little tidbit, if you go back to the start of this season, like he seemed to be the one who was the most devastated about the idea of not being able to return to Lumen at
Yeah.
that point. And that to me kind of implied a lot of, well, the job's not finished. It didn't feel like a, oh, man, I really that was my dream job. It was more like he has a very specific purpose he's trying to do here.
Yeah, he is the only outie that has information about what's going on the inside. His whole apartment basically looks like one of those cork boards with stuff all over
Yes.
it. He just has it a little more hidden because, somebody
Yeah.
might be stopping by like a Milchek,
Yeah.
with his pineapples to be like, "Hey, you want to come
Yeah.
back to work? We're friends."
Yeah.
And I think that that's also part of his undercover sort of persona in there to be like, "Yeah, Milchek's going to think that we're friends. Yeah, me and Dylan's going to think that we're friends." And
Yeah.
he's sort of like, "I'll bring people in. They're more likely to open up, give me a little bit of information."
Yeah.
Even when he first went back in and was talking to Dylan, the way that he like pulled him close and they were having that hug
Yeah.
and the way he was whispering, it felt like he was a detective, that it was someone who was just like, "I've told secrets before and I'm really here to see if I can get information out of this person." Then we saw him in Woe's Hollow as well,
Yeah.
where he told Dylan to hang in there. The way he was passing this information
Yeah.
and having that paper behind that poster on the wall, the hang in there poster, to be able to tell
Hmm.
him that he's talking like a detective.
Yeah. And one thing detectives always kind of try to do is they try to leave evidence or clues behind. Like
Right.
you have folders of information because something can happen to you on the job at almost any point, and you don't want to leave a case unsolved. And this may
Yes.
be even subconsciously on the effort of any Irv trying to pick up a little bit of what his outie is doing, because this is
Yeah.
something that we've talked a lot about in other Severance videos this season. The idea that innies and outies are different, but they also do inherit, and I think at least, certain characteristics. Like, for example, we've talked about it with Helena, that there's a part of her outie to some extent who may want to rebel against the company, and that's why her innie has been as rebellious as she's been at times. And I think Irv, if his outie is a detective, his innie is going to inherit a little bit of what happens when you are a detective. And I think a
Mhm.
part of that kind of comes into this idea of showing loyalty, of showing deference to somebody, whether it's a superior or even in the any world, we have seen Irv show a surprising amount of deference towards Kier. He's been more down, I think, the Kier hole than any of the other like main people in MDR.
Yeah, absolutely. He is fully immersed in this role
Yeah,
of any Irv, of being there, doing a good job, doing
yeah,
everything he can, like making friends with people, getting close with Milchak. I mean, he's really the only person that was trying to get close with the boss, right?
yeah. It's definitely not a coincidence that these traits are there both with this any and outie person, where any Irv is actually doing a job, I think, without even knowing fully why he's doing the job, why he is as loyal as he is, why he's showing deference in the way in which that he does.
The thing that I do not want to have happen
Yeah,
is if he is a detective and he is getting messages
yeah,
to Irv, his any Irv, that he has somehow convinced or coerced Irv to start this relationship up with Bert. That
yeah.
he was like, you have to go to different departments, you
Mhm.
have to start to meet other people, you have to figure out what is going on outside of your own department. You're there to learn everything that is
Yeah.
going on. Go over here, see what's going on, make this relationship with Bert or Felicia or whoever is over there that you can make a relationship with. I don't think that it's Irv is a honey trap that's over there trying to
Yeah.
like, sweeten up to Bert to be able to get information.
Mhm.
But I do think that if he's a detective and he's in there trying to figure things out, as much as he's able to know being severed, that he then would be having this relationship with him because he just might have, like you said,
Mhm.
that inherent want to get close with people because when you're close with people, you get information.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things with Bert. Like, I think it is that sort of inherent need to be close to people because of the job he's trying to do, especially with Bert working at, a completely different department.
Right.
Like, there's a ton of value there. But I think where Audi Irv is a little bit delusional is thinking that he can actually go and give any Irv like direct points as to everything to do. Like, I
Yeah.
think that the relationship any Irv has or had with Bert was real in that aspect. Like,
Mhm.
I think there was a real affection that was there between those two people. And maybe this is just this idea that any Irv is getting to act on something that maybe these Audi version hasn't really had a chance to do. And that's
Mm.
sort of the difference of being in this world that has a totally different set of rules, and different parts of your consciousness can kind of take over a little bit.
We also know that Audi Irv has sort of this, we'll call it a military family background. We
Yes.
know that his dad was in the Navy. We've seen some medals around his house. It's
Mhm.
not that far of a throw to have somebody from the military
Yeah.
then get out and decide to join the force.
No, it's not. And a lot of those sort of core beliefs they instill in you when you are in the military or your family's in the military. They are these ideas of, following orders,
Right.
doing the job, checking back in. Like, it
Right.
explains to me fully like the sense of honor and duty. And I think there's a lot of Easter eggs and hints about this on the show already, because whether it's the paintings in Lumen, all of the different names that are being thrown out there, even something like Cold Harbor, which, was a battle. Like, I think there are a lot of clues that somebody on this show has like this sort of background or this direct tie. And it might be Kier, but this might also be a way that the show is sort of painting that connection between Kier and Irving, even though they have very different objectives, like they still have something in common. And that's probably why Irv can understand him in a way that maybe other people just don't.
Is it possible that Irv is a detective for the military?
I don't think we can rule it out because, listen, the government itself probably wants to know what's going on here.
100%. A
Yeah,
100%. They are not going to be okay with what is going on.
yeah.
It is too secret what is happening.
It is. And Irv has been in the program pretty early. Like, they
Yes.
have established that he is one of the earlier adopters, and trying to
Right.
figure out that timeline can be difficult. But this might have been an instance where this program is just starting to come out. Lumen then was like, okay, to quote a name of a Netflix show, they needed a man on the inside. So they like get Irv, who they maybe worked with before, and got him on board. And this has been like some elaborate years long job that he's
Right.
trying to take on.
Yeah.
The problem here is just that at the end of the day, any Irv's going to do whatever any Irv is going to do. And that's why I don't think the ultimate events of Woe's Hollow was exactly what Audi Irv wanted to do. I think it's just he is beholden to this idea of loyalty and duty to the extent where he finds out that Helena is actually in there and not Helly, and he feels like this is a huge, stab to the gut, a defiance of the core ideas of Kier, who he trusts, who he believes in, and I think he just acts as though, a threat has been detected, and he's just going full tilt, not really knowing what the ramifications are, and this now puts, of course, Audi Irvin like this really enormous pickle.
Yeah, because he definitely feels like he is in trouble at this point, where he's just like, well,
yeah,
I've lost my resource on the inside.
Yeah.
I've been fired. So, where do we go from here?
Yeah, and this ultimately does lead to this big question of, okay, we have all this evidence now that we've laid out here that Irv might be a detective and he's trying to get the information, but what is the actual end game with all of this? Because he's one person trying to potentially expose this enormous company who's got this multi-billion-dollar operation. My feeling is that right now, he's just trying to get enough definitive evidence to show that this is what Lumon is doing. There are certain parts of it that are happening against people's will. This any program is not what everybody thinks. Maybe the innies are working on something really, really dangerous, which we have talked about here so many times. And he needs to prove exactly that it is, which is why it's important for him to go to these sort of different departments. Because if you are well trained as a detective or any other sort of investigator, you can't act on something unless you are 1,000,000% sure, especially if you're going against a company like Lumon, who is going to have the most expensive lawyers known to mankind who are going to shut down almost anything you do.
Yeah. And I mean, him going to the different departments. Obviously, his Audi has been having all these paintings about this elevator, this mystery elevator, and what is going on with this red arrow. He didn't have enough time in there. So is there a way that Audi Irv is going to be able to still maybe communicate with any Dylan, maybe through Gretchen?
I think there's a way that this can, in fact, happen. Like, Gretchen's a great pull because, Gretchen seems like they're not doing anything to her as far as we know when she goes in there. We've seen her visit Dylan once. I certainly think that she's probably going to go back. Like, we've talked about that a little bit in these videos already.
Yep.
The only other thing I could think about is like, okay, is there still a way for any Irv to exist? I think it would only come up in the instance where Lumon as a company starts to really feel like Helena's doing the wrong thing, or she's kind of acting in the worst interest of the company. And they think that throwing Irv back in there is going to be in the best interest of Kier and that they can find a way to sell that. Like, I wouldn't rule it out. It just feels really unlikely right now.
They would really have to sell me on Irv coming back. Like, really have to sell me. He tried to kill Helena, who is the daughter of, the owner of the company. Like, it just feels like there's no bringing him back. I just don't think I would buy it. As much as I want to see Irv back down there, I don't know what the sell is.
The thing I'm probably just the most happy about right now is knowing that John Turturro is not gone from the show.
Goodness.
He's still going to be around to some extent. I think he's still going to be doing some investigating, but if he is a detective, this is where the show is going to get really fun because he's basically up against everything at this point. So how is he going to figure it out?
Yes.
But that's where we are with this Severance Season 2 theory discussion. So let us know in the comments. Do you guys feel like Irving is a detective, an investigator? Is he just, I don't know, to borrow from Yellow Jackets, which we're also covering, is he just a citizen detective who's doing all of this completely on his own and going rogue and putting it on a message board where nobody's going to believe him?
Could be.
I don't know, but we'll hopefully find out this season. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. Hit that subscribe button for so much more Severance coverage. Also, help us get to 70,000 for Jess's birthday. And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We're covering over there Prime Target as well as The Pit in video form. We'll see you guys here next time.